Let's go! Arik out. Is it Bech season? I just like saying his last name. Bech. What about Kole Taylor? He stepped in just fine. Or is there a sleeper option we have yet to see play? But, as we always do, we look deeper on this channel. Is there a correlation with great tight end play and LSU success? The numbers might shock you. So go on ahead, like this video. It's a road to 4,000 subscribers. Let's go!
So here is the heir apparent to Arik Gilbert, Kole Taylor from Grand Junction, Colorado. Apparently there's some growing LSU fans there, which is pretty cool according to your comments. And throughout today's episode, you're going to see a lot of the comments from yesterday's Arik Gilbert video. 6 catches, 36 yards, a 6.0 average. So obviously when it comes to being a receiver, not AG2 production. But then again, you know, these were the last 3 games of the year. These were the only games where Kole Taylor actually got the football thrown to him. And obviously his most famous play is the shoe falling off. Made a few catches against Ole Miss. So he is the leader in the clubhouse. And he is the most experienced tight end coming back. He is 6'7", which could be a nightmare matchup on the outside, also over the middle. Nick Storz is also coming back for LSU, the baseball player who is fully committed to football now. But let's not forget about Devonta Lee. Now, there are different reports as to why he's moved back to tight end. But ultimately, he is a guy that has moved back and forth positions. So he does have some receiving talent. A lot of you love this guy coming out of high school. We just don't know a whole lot with the standing on the team, and we've yet to really see him play outside of a few snaps on special teams. So, you know, I don't want to count out Devonta Lee, but it just depends on if LSU views him as an SEC starter. Now, we get to the guy that you guys keep telling me about. Mr. Jack Bech, the freshman phenom from the 337. Is he the answer at LSU tight end? Recently tabbed 4-star wide receiver on the 247 composite. One of the most productive high school wide receivers in Louisiana and just period in all of high school football over the past couple of years. Now, you do see he's listed as a wide receiver. There are some rumors out there that he will be moved to tight end. We don't know the answer to that yet. But does he have tight end frame? This kid is huge. 6'2", 215. Now, that doesn't sound huge, but he's got a wide frame. If you actually watch him play, he is extremely physical. As physical of a wide receiver you're going to see. And that's one of my favorite things about watching Jack Bech highlights. He makes all different types of catches. Slants, screens, over the top, contested catches. Also, he played in a high-powered offense at St. Thomas More. No wide receiver in college football or in high school football has had the quarterback wealth that Bech has had. The year before, he was thrown to by a Holstein brother. And then this year, Walker Howard, who is a real deal, class of 2022 LSU commit. But that's not a bad thing. You know, it is a good thing that a wide receiver is coming in used to getting Division I level passers throwing him the football. You know, his numbers, you see them, he's fantastic. But there are a few things before we speed up this hype train here with Jack Bech. The first thing is he's not an early enrollee. LSU has 9 early enrollees, but he's not one of them. Second thing, well, he's not a tight end. He is a wide receiver. Now, he could play tight end, especially if you're having your tight end split out a lot like they did with Arik Gilbert. Does he have the capability of being a tight end type of blocker? Well, we don't know that. And the number 3 thing here is, well, exactly what I said in our Arik Gilbert piece yesterday. Playing true freshman is a double-edged sword. I do think it is good to sit the bench early and slowly work your way into the lineup. That was the Kayshon Boutte model this past year, where in the offseason, LSU labeled Kayshon the starter after Jamar moved on to the NFL. Then Mickey Joseph said, he's not ready. And then Mickey explained this in an interview recently. Kayshon had to start doing all the other things right before he started working his way into the lineup. Arik Gilbert, part of the problem was he was just immediately labeled the starter, and he made a lot of freshman mistakes, particularly in the blocking aspect of things. So, I am a big believer in slowly working in any true freshman, such as Mason Smith, who's going to play a lot next year. Work him in slowly, and then, if he's good enough, let him take over the starting role. So, if LSU decides, if Jake Peets and DJ Mangus and Mickey Joseph and those guys decide that Jack Bech is a potential tight end candidate, slowly work him into that position, and then ultimately he could win that position. I am super high on Jack Bech. I am as confident in him as any other wide receiver in this class to eventually become a productive LSU receiver. Now, how he actually works in, that's what is yet to be seen. But the talent is there, the work ethic is there, and the attitude is there. Look at this. Releasing this Instagram photo after Arik Gilbert said sayonara. Notice who all is commenting as well, a who's who of LSU commits. So I do see this scenario playing out. I do think Kole Taylor will be the starter. And something else I really like about Kole Taylor is something very similar to a guy that is playing in the Super Bowl right now, Darrell Williams. So Darrell Williams came to LSU knowing that Leonard Fournette was also coming to LSU, but he said, look, I'm going to come and I'm going to compete. And then, as you guys saw, Darrell Williams eventually became a productive LSU running back. Kole Taylor basically said the same thing. He knew Arik Gilbert was coming to LSU, and he still decided to come anyway because Kole Taylor likes to compete, and I like that about him. So you got to give Kole Taylor a lot of credit in that aspect. Now, what about the tight end position at LSU? Is there any kind of historical significance we could take away from that position? Let's take a look. Here are the LSU leading wide receivers from 2019. And when you look at catches, Thaddeus Moss actually finished the season with more catches than Terrace Marshall. Now, Terrace Marshall did miss a good portion of the 2019 season, a couple of games there in the middle, but still, it showed that Thaddeus Moss was a reasonably good weapon for LSU. Now, he wasn't a special athlete, but Thaddeus Moss's two biggest games came in LSU's two biggest wins of the year. We all remember that famous Alabama catch and then 2 touchdowns versus Clemson in the national championship game. And that's the good thing about having a tight end who is a weapon. You look previous to that, 2018-2017, you had Foster Moreau, which added an extra dimension to the LSU offense. And his best game came against Texas A&M in that crazy overtime debacle. I actually think LSU underutilized Foster Moreau, but when you look at his 2017 numbers, he was LSU's second leading receiver when it comes to catches. Now, previous to that, those middle of the year, Les Miles prehistoric offenses, you see a lot of poor tight end production, which simply cannot cut it because you don't have a threat at the tight end position. Now, LSU had a lot of things holding them back, and this even coincides with the Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry offenses. To not have a tight end option makes you more predictable on offense, which makes it easier for you to defend. So if you don't have that extra option that you have to worry about over the middle, well, it holds you back. That's why you see, if you actually go look at the numbers, the DeSean Smiths, the Colin Jeters, the Travis Dicksons, they were all decent players, but LSU just never really had a threat at tight end, and it coincided with all those bad Les Miles offenses. Now, a lot of that had to do with Les Miles' lack of imagination on offense and not even throwing the football to the tight end. Because if you actually go back and watch the film, the middle of the field was always wide open. And that's because defenses didn't have to worry about the tight end at all. And you look at LSU's national championship teams. 2011, when they reached the national championship game, they had Deangelo Peterson, who was a threat. I think they also underutilized him. And in that game, there was a throw wide open over the middle in the national championship game, 19-12, that Justin Jefferson missed because LSU was so trained to not look at the tight end. That was part of the problem. But you go look at 2007, Richard Dickson, one of the great LSU tight ends ever. Then you go to 2003, another national championship team. Who remembers Arik Edwards, the pride of Monroe, Louisiana? And then you also had David Jones and Keith Zinger. Now, Zinger turned out to be a good blocking tight end who was drafted, but you could tell Arik Edwards and David Jones combined for basically 30 receptions. And that was back when offenses weren't like they were now. They were a threat at tight end. So you look, LSU's championship teams had at the very least a decent receiving tight end, and they're bad teams, and I mean bad teams, simply did not have anything at tight end, which is why Kole Taylor is such a key piece, which is why Jack Bech is such a key piece. When you have inactivity or a lack of a threat at tight end, it just makes you easier to defend. So now let's go back to our Arik Gilbert video from yesterday. And I want to have this discussion because we've discussed the tight end position already. Were we too harsh, or were some of you too harsh in your comments? Let's take a look. So let's have an adult conversation about Arik Gilbert leaving. And obviously, there are plenty of people out there, no, he's a teenager. Don't be too hard on him. And I've also been accused of being too pro player, not being hard enough. There is a balance, okay? Yes, I am one of those people that want every LSU player, or just any player, to go where they want to go, okay? Do whatever you want to do, because two things. I want a player to be happy. I don't want a player to strap up and be my teammate if they are not mentally there. But also, one player doesn't make a team. LSU went 2-0 without Arik Gilbert in their lineup. You know, that's just a fact. No one player is needed for your team to be successful. Now look, Arik Gilbert was a unicorn athlete. He was a guy that was recruited by Joe Brady and Derek Shea, both pieces of the 2019 offense that weren't there anymore. His role obviously changed on the team, and you guys have heard me talk about this on quite a few videos. And you know, I am pro AG too. But he went to a rival school that LSU has to play every season. So while I am happy that he is going somewhere where he feels happy, we do have to call out the BS aspect of it. You're going to a school that could actively prevent LSU from reaching the SEC championship game. While I am pro player, while I do say no one player makes a team, that doesn't mean you should be let off scotch-free for your decisions that put your teammates in a bad position. And understand that he knew when he left the team that the team was struggling. Not only in the win and loss column, but the team was also struggling just by having enough players to even play in the games. Put the team in a horrible position. And that in and of itself does deserve some criticism. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, and obviously keep the comments civil. No need for name calling or anything like that, okay? It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! Bomb, bomb, bomb. All right, let's, what are we having tonight? I think, Mom's gumbo. Whoo, KB made gumbo. Let's go.